Welcome to another Awakened Souls Tarot and More conscious manifesting video. I am going to be still doing tarot reading as well as manifesting for conscious manifesting. I am very passionate about both, but today I'm going to discuss the topic of saturating your mind because that was one thing that has always tripped me up, is saturating my mind, especially when you're dealing with the 3D and trying to incorporate the 3D into saturating your mind. So I know a lot of people say go to meditate and go to saying the affirmations repeatedly, which both of them do work, and so does visualization, and all the techniques that all these coaches share do work. But to kind of add to it, what I've learned to do in terms of saturating my mind is to kind of read stories or read articles or watch movies or watch things that also imply the same thing of what I want for my wish fulfilled to be. So for example, just as a case in point for a real life example, one time my dog ran away. She was gone for a month, and everyone in my 3D kept saying, oh, she's gone, she'll never come back, blah blah blah, things like that. I didn't let that affect me. That's, again, not letting the circumstances or people's words affect your beliefs. But I also, in order to not let them affect me, I kept looking up stories of dogs returning home who had been lost for hundreds of miles, excuse me, for a year, things like that, where these dogs just magically got home or found their way home. So I saturated my mind that way because it was very hard for me to do stats, which is state akin to sleep, which I can make a video on as well. It was very hard for me to really visualize completely, and it was very hard for me affirming wise. I would say yes, that I'd say my dog is home safe and sound. I would always say those affirmations because I do believe that affirmations are a key point, because the more obviously we learn how to do repetition, it does help. But again, saturating my mind, especially when even though I was saying things and I was, hearing other people say, oh, she's never going to come back, those two conflicting things, they're not saying what I'm saying, singling that. So again, to saturate your mind, I'd say flood your visions with, flood your 3D with stories and affirmations that confirm your beliefs that you want. So exactly, for example, for an SP, instead of listening to songs, for example, or watching movies where a couple goes through all this turmoil and then separates and then never gets back together, or doesn't get back together until so far into the future, things like that, or doesn't get back together until they're old. Those are good, but saturate your mind with stories of how, love stories. Maybe it does mean you have to take a break from social media posts, and definitely take a break from dating coach advices and things like that, because obviously for those that say if you love them, let them go, and if it's meant to be, they'll come back, because they only know one way of their affirming. And also those coaches that, play all these different scenarios and talk about texting and all these things. So instead of that, go to that end, to saturate that mind of the wish fulfilled of what you want, even if it's just a text message. Just read stories you, I'm sure, have, go to different coaching groups, and go to different articles, go to Reddit, go to these things where you can read all these success stories. And instead of saying, oh, why are they getting theirs and not me, use that as a point of saturating your mind of, oh my gosh, if they can do it, I can do it. They are not more special than you. They just, persisted essentially into that saturation. And saturating your mind is the hardest thing. I mean, even Neville Goddard had a hard time doing that in some of his examples, where, for example, when he wanted to go home to Barbados and he had to have his coach, Abdul, help him. He's like, I'm still not there. I don't know what you're talking about. And Abdul had to keep saying, you are in Barbados, no matter what. and he basically shut the door on him because he's like, just regardless if you're in New York City where it's like 20 degrees below whatever, and freezing, just know that you are in Barbados, you're at home, you're with your family, just know that. And even though he kept trying to fight those thoughts because he kept looking around his 3D and saw nothing else, thankfully he had a coach that believed in him so much, or believes, knows how to manifest, that he manifested for Neville, essentially. And so no matter what, even though Neville still did his best to saturate his mind, to feel like he was walking down the streets of Barbados versus the streets of New York City, even though the temperature was drastically different. So just saturating your mind, I understand, can be hard. So again, let's recap. I don't want to keep this video too long, or make this video too long, but so to best saturate your mind is yes, constantly say affirmations. If you hear your little voice in your head, especially the naysayers, right? If they say, oh, what you're doing is pointless, well, it doesn't matter. So like, just tell yourself like, okay, if it's pointless, well, it's pointless for me to say otherwise. So I just say something that will make me feel better. And then eventually that little bug that pesters you, she or he will get less and less strength. So again, to saturate your mind, the different ways to do it is really flood yourself. Stories of success stories. Like I said, I looked up stories about all these dogs returning, and I never entertained the idea that she was dead, that she was gone for good. Yes, of course, those thoughts came into my mind, but I did not allow those thoughts to become my dominant thought. So my dominant thought was, nope, she's coming home because if all these dogs can, she can too, because that's how awesome my dog is. And then also, aside from that, I also did the visualization. So at night, the SATs, I did the state akin to sleep. I would, with that in mind, I would go into my sleep, petting her. Like, that was it. I didn't have any emotions. I didn't have any feelings in regards to happiness, sadness, gratitude. I didn't have any of that. The only thing I felt was her head. I felt her head, her ears, and her hot breath, because that's how you're supposed to visualize. You're supposed to visualize with all your senses. You're not supposed, and the feeling is literally the feeling, your senses. Your eyes feel the vision, your ears feel the sounds. That's what Neville Goddard is explaining when he says feeling is the secret. It has nothing to do with the emotional state of gratitude or happiness, because I've seen countless people who are the most negative people on earth, and they still get their manifestation that they're looking for, because at the end of the day, regardless of how they're feeling, they want something enough, it's gonna show up. Whether they're grateful for it or not, it's gonna happen. It's just because that's what they believe to happen. Like, for example, those wealthy people that don't know being poor, and are like the bitchiest people, the most ungrateful. They just are self-righteous in the sense of like, I'm always rich, doesn't matter. They don't have any gratitude, they still get money. People who have easy relationships for themselves, and they still complain about their relationships, but they complain to the point where they've saturated their mind enough to know that they're either confident enough that they don't care what someone thinks, says, or does. They're just going to get it anyways, because that's what their mind is saturated with, is that feeling that like they're never left. But anyway, so saturating your mind is flood your mind with stories. Don't entertain anything else, especially if you waver. You can when you're older. When you're more experienced with this, you can do that. And then do visualization, affirm all the time. And affirming doesn't necessarily mean to speak it. You can, especially at the beginning. Definitely feel like you have to speak it and say it out loud. Also listen to songs, if there are songs that are similar to it. One movie that I had watched for my dog especially was Homeward Bound, because again, even though I read all these stories, I needed the Disney spin on it of these three animals randomly going from long distances to get home. So you can do the same thing for that. And again, if like you're dealing with an SP situation or money situation, watch movies like, I'd say definitely watch Disney movies. Disney has a real knack for fantasizing, creating that fantasy, but keeping the loving feeling versus dealing with all that turmoil. For example, I love Enchanted just because, it deals with third parties and it deals with being chosen and all that kind of stuff. And then, excuse me, but things like that. And then also for like money, maybe like The Pursuit of Happiness. It might be a sad movie, but that just shows how someone, or even The Wolf of Wall Street is a fantastic movie because it goes and follows someone that started from nothing and becomes this like multimillionaire. The Pursuit of Happiness, someone that finds his rhythm and is pursuing his happiness no matter what anyone else is telling him. So again, affirmations, visualization, basically do everything, but again, saturate your mind. You can meditate. Meditation is good. Doing sats, you don't have to do it right before bed all the time. Sats, state akin to sleep, is basically meditation. It was just they didn't have a term for it back then in the Western world. And so by going there, doing sats whenever you can, and just when you're living as if, just keep living and reading stories about things that show the positive. And this might mean you might need to have a mental diet in regards to cutting out all the other stuff until you know for a fact that no matter what, you're going to get your manifestation. So like stay away from the news, stay away from social media where you'll see friends posting. Give yourself a break, because obviously if you're wavering, what might be causing that wavering is you're looking at 10,000 different types of stories. So stick with one thing. Like I said, I do tarot as well. So yes, it can be hard because if you're doing tarot readings, of course I'm going to be telling you what the energies are telling you now, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's what it's always going to be. So don't watch the tarot videos, don't watch the pick a card readings, because it's only going to pick up what you're currently believing. So maybe you can also do those videos to see where your current beliefs are and see what you need to adjust. Like if you're seeing like it's saying like, oh, you guys are not in contact, then you can say, okay, well, I can readjust that to something else, and then check back in a tarot reading a couple of weeks later. I don't suggest doing tarot readings daily, especially if you're on this manifesting journey, because again, you don't want yourself to waver. And as much as I love the support and everything you guys give me through the videos of the pick a card readings, it's not going to help your case, especially if you're trying to do one specific thing. So anyways, I'm going to end that here. We're at the 13-minute mark. I don't know what it will be if we edit it, but I'm going to try to keep this as raw as possible. If you do have questions, please leave me questions in the comment box. You can email me, and you can go to my website, awaken-souls.net, where I have coaching. Of course, I'm sure everyone on YouTube is a coach. But I also want to help you for free. So I'm going to do whatever I can to be your Abdul, where I could just say, you are who you are with who you are, you have the money you want, regardless of what you believe. So I believe that everyone that's watching this is successful, abundant, has the love of their life, and is living their best life. You are the master of your reality, and I'm only part of that. So you have manifested me into your world to give you this little boost. If you again have questions, let me know, and I will talk to you guys again soon.